everybody, it's Joel. Not really a content creator. I've got my influencer phone stand thing, one of these. And we're all talking about deck boxes again, and I do have an update on my current inner circle of deck boxes. So I guess I'm going to show that off to you guys. I've got my playmat, stuff like that as well. I guess my entire setup. I don't know if you guys can see my crazy phone mounting hook. It's really wobbly. It works though. Everyone who's played against me can see that it works. Well, I guess without further ado, let's have a look at a few of my my deck boxes and sleeves and this whole setup that I have going on. Alrighty, so I'm on my my desk, and I have to apologise, I'm still a little bit under the weather, so hopefully my voice isn't too bad. And oh, this would be it here. This is my deck box where I store all of my inner circle decks. Now I do have other like deck boxes just like lying around, and these used to be in similar things. And I have my other deck box for my girlfriend's decks as well. And for those who haven't heard about this, I've made another video in the past about my my setup, and it has updated since then. So I'm going to explain to everyone what is all about that now. Now this is actually a special edition. This is a an Ultimate Guard Archive 8, so it holds 8 boulders, and this is actually a special edition called the Druidic Secrets bundle. And when I bought this deck box, it came with 2 boulders as well. It came with these 2. And these are cool, right? They've got the black like top lid bit, and they've got the cool pattern on the front. So these 2 came with this bundle, right? The decks that I put in here are also like matching, which is, I'll explain that in a second. But the other part of the story is that at my LGS one time, there was 6 more of these out on the shelf, and it was definitely worth the money to me to upgrade, because now I've all got this uniform boxes. Now all of these are the part of this Druidic Secrets. So these are all sold separately. These didn't all come with the same box, but these all have the cool patterns on them as well, and the different colors, they're all different. And then I know obviously what deck is what. And then they got the last 2. So when I did the last video, the pink and the yellow one, decks 7 and 8, they didn't have decks in them. They were gone. I only had 6 decks. Now I've got all 8 decks filled, and I'll get a bit of a rundown. Speaking of numbering, I have numbers for all these decks. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So like if I want to randomly roll a d8 and pick a deck or whatever, that's the numbering. Just they left to right and then front to back. All of my decks are outfitted in the same sleeves as well, and I also have uniform basic lands in all of my decks. I'm a very aesthetic person. I like things looking nice. I like things being nice as well. So obviously, I'm going to go over a quick rundown on the aesthetics and just all of my decks in deck order. Number 1 is Farid. This deck is... Man, this is probably my most aesthetic deck, honestly. This deck looks great. Not only does it look good like in the sleeves and on the field, it looks good in its box as well. Farid, the red... I think the red like old border actually matches the brown like artifact border very well, so I think that was a really nice looking deck. Now, obviously the red on this box also kind of matches the red... the red old frame as well, and the sleeves I have, all of these are outfitted in Dragon Shield dual matte sleeves. So these are the ones with the black inner wall and then the color on the back. These are crypt sleeves, so these have like the gray on the back, which matches the gray as well. And this has got the like, nice Terran pattern. Obviously this is a pretty exclusively old border deck, which Demo just did that deck doctor about. All old border mountains in this deck. I actually do have all old border mountains in this deck finally. I don't have the only new border, I just took out a couple of new border cards, and yes, demo, I do have a real old border Goblin Welder. As soon as this got into stock at my the website I shop from, I happened to pick one up as soon as it was in stock. The only new border cards I have in the whole deck are Girapur Aether Grid. It was a bit hard to see on the deck doctor which cards were new and old border and which weren't. Sahili's Directive, that does not have an old border printing. The others are, let's see if I can find them somewhere. The Reckless Fireweaver, and I think there's one more. Ingenious Artillerist. I think that's it, pretty sure. There's one more, Scrapmaster, of course. I think that's it. So 5 cards out of 99 that are 100 that are old border. If you're wondering about Ancient Tomb as well, demo, where I just saw it, my Ancient Tomb somewhere. Where is that card? I just saw it before. There it is. Now, the thing with Ancient Tomb being in this deck is that I have one. I have an old border Ancient Tomb. I got this in a list slot at a... I was very lucky to pull this. It was in a list slot at a sealed, like pre-release. And I was like flipping. And I just happened to have the perfect deck for it, an old border deck. So I could probably put that in, you know, Tameshi or something. But I think it quite well fits in here. Didn't mention the Aether Flux. I was just talking to Kyle about that. I literally just played a game with a couple guys. Tokens. I keep my tokens in my deck box with everything else. With all my decks. All my decks have... I'm a big token guy as well. I like having all the correct tokens for everything. So all my tokens, you can see there, all my tokens are this way. So I have the sleeves facing... All the decks have the sleeves all up the right way, because that's a pet peeve of mine as well. Some people shuffle their things upside down and it pisses me off. But yeah, backs of the sleeves always to the back, and then the commander this way. All my tokens are between the deck and the commander. And so then when I start the game, I just take my commander and my sleeves and then put them to the side or whatever. So yeah, that's Farid. It's pretty... I'd say it's... I think I said that in the deck doctor as well when I posted it to demo. It's probably my most famous deck. Probably mostly just because of the aesthetics, but it also just does a lot of cool stuff as well. The deck... I'm going to my deck number 2. I'm going to try and not be too long unless anyone wants to hear it. I'm guessing it's my video, so I'll be as long as I want. Again, this is the Inner Circle decks. I do have a couple of extra decks, but they're not really... Their decks are kind of just play when I have friends over, like in paper. These are my decks I'm more like comfortable to represent me, if that makes sense. As for the order, I don't really have any particular reason for the order. It's just like whatever looks the best, I guess. I don't really know. The second one's in the green box, and that is my Torsten, founder of Benalia deck. This deck I don't really play too much. It actually has the highest win percentage out of any of my decks. Nice green box. So highest win percentage. I do keep track of all of my games with all my decks. I have been since the start of the year. I'm going to probably continue to do that forever. I keep track of wins and losses, or like I keep track of overall games and then wins, and it produces a percentage. But I also keep track of a most valuable card every game. So every game I tally up what I thought the most valuable card was. That cannot be the commander, of course. So any of the 99 cards. Could be a land, could be a instant sorcery, could be a creature, whatever. Torsten here it's a combo deck, if anyone's wondering. Anyone who hasn't played against it. Again, very, very powerful. It's got quite a high win percentage. I almost don't really bust it out too often because of that. Torsten's such a powerful card advantage enabler. And most of the deck is creatures and lands for that reason. There is a couple of non-creature non-lands like board wipes and blink spells and things. And it is like mostly, it's kind of a blink deck. There are blink like cards in there, but it's not really a blink deck like you would think of like a rune deck or a Brago deck or something that blinks a lot. This deck doesn't blink a lot, but all of its stuff has ETBs, so it really can make use of it. And there's combos that will produce, the main combos in the deck are producing infinite of any of the ETBs that I have on the field. So like with Jewel Thief here, I can make infinite treasures, or any of the dungeon guys, like venture into the dungeon or take the initiative. Any of those ones just win me the game on the spot because there are rooms that drain opponents. As for lands, I have the Theros Beyond Death, like Nyx lands in this deck as the full arts. Yeah, I just have a lot of these and they look nice. So yeah, good, nice lands. Archdruid Charm, one of my favorite. In fact, it probably is my favorite card, and I love it a lot in this deck. It gets a creature, allows me to fight something or bite something or whatever. Removal, and the triple green is not a problem like at all in this deck. Yeah, so that's a pretty self-explanatory deck. Just provides, the commander provides a lot of like late game, mid game advantage. It doesn't ramp like crazy or anything. It has a bit of ramp in it, mostly in creature form, of course. Not really mana dorks. I did used to have mana dorks in this deck, but I took those out because they just kind of made the deck go faster. It's not a like super fast, like aggressive combo deck, but it always has just some like inevitable combo that's reasonably hard to interact with anyway, and most people don't see it coming. And it's something I probably should tell people more when I bust this deck out. These are in Dragon Shield Dual Matte. This is Eucalyptus color. It's a nice like mint green color. It's one of my favorite colors too. It's a really nice looking deck. Nice sleeves. Same thing, black on the inside. All of my decks have the uniform black on the inside. Yeah, so they're all in their sleeves. And then I don't know, so I didn't mention this with Frib, but I also have a different sleeve picked out for the commander, even though that's technically incorrect, just in case your commander somehow gets shuffled into your library. You'll need a way to not differentiate it or whatever, but you know. I like this sleeve on this commander, honestly. Alright, we'll go on to number 3. Number 3 is this deck in this nice, look at that. That looks good. I like the way this looks. And this is my Tameshi Reality Architect deck. I actually have two copies of the actual commander in the command zone. The English one and the Japanese one. Literally don't know if anyone noticed. I always just like playing the Japanese one because it's cool, but if anyone asks, like in person or whatever at an LGS, I have my English one just in case, just so they don't have to take out their phone or whatever. Tokens, as usual. Osasaka constructs, you know the gist. This is my deck probably with the most proxies in it. I do have a few like of my nicer cards in here, but I have a couple of proxies because I do need them for the deck. But I do have like real cards here or there. Like this, my kind of stance on proxies, especially with Farid. Farid was the one where I really just wanted one deck that I never had proxies in, which is why I don't like proxy up Old Border like of whatever I want, like Dragon Spark Reactor or something. Because it's a really good card in the deck, but it doesn't have Old Border, so it's like kind of hard to justify. For me anyway, for the aesthetic. I pretty much have like bits and pieces of proxies in most of my decks. Except for my deck 8, which I'll get to later, that's brand new, and I have just proxied up the entire deck basically just to test it out a little bit. It's a lot of fun, so I just played that deck if anyone's wondering. Yeah, and I've been getting... I also quite like the aesthetic of this deck too, for a different reason. Anyone who knows the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty lore will know about Tameshi and how he was trying to research ways of getting technology and kami, like spirits to mesh and stuff. The spirits and the kami and stuff in Kamigawa are very old school, very like naturalist. So anyway, so I've gone with this, I don't know why, I've put it in my head where all the enchantments get to be Old Border and all of the artifacts get to be New Border. And it looks really nice. It's a very weird mix of Old Border and New Border, but yeah, most of my enchantments in this deck are Old Border, and I have a few Old Border like instants and sorceries and stuff as well. Then you get some of the newer, like spicier, like that Cyberdrive Awakener just looks amazing, I don't know. As for lands, I have the Kamigawa Fallout lands, of course. These are really expensive. I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, they're really expensive, and I I need an old border Mystic Remora. I might take this out. Every time I play Mystic Remora, I always forget it. Every time. I always forget to do the triggers. It just sits there and I forget I have it every time. But yeah, everyone, this is kind of a deck I don't bring out a lot because it is a combo deck. So there's 2 combos in this deck. I can win using infinite turns. I can take infinite turns with my commander and Mystic Sanctuary and an extra turn spell and enough mana and an artifact that can sacrifice itself. There's a few stipulations. There we go, my extra turn. So something like Lotus Bloom, I can sack it, and then, yeah. Everyone who's played against it knows how that works. There is another combo in the deck too with Transmute Artifact. Excuse me, not Transmute Artifact, Copy Artifact, wherever it is. Where is it? Copy Artifact. There it is. So there's another combo with Copy Artifact where you can make infinite mana. As for actual, like, I've got like some meaner cards like Overburden or whatever. This deck has like 3 creatures in it, and I do run a lot of creature hate like Overburden. Also, Overburden will draw me cards off the commander, so it's actually, and same with Mana Breach. I have Mana Breach in this deck as well. It's the same thing. Urza Saga, pretty much the king of this deck. As a proxy, I want to get my hand on one of the textless ones if I ever can. Speaking of, I'll talk about the elephant in the room, the Ghostly Prison. I love this card. I always wanted one of these neon ink foils. It looks really good. Ghostly Prison actually doesn't have an old border printing, which wouldn't match the rest of the enchantments in the deck. But that is a close second, I think. Neither does Artificer's Intuition. That's probably like the most important enchantment in the whole deck, and it still just looks like that. It's still cool. It's a great card. It's as I said, probably the most. And I've got other proxies like Tundra. The one like really, really expensive card that I don't have a proxy of that I actually own is my Mana Crypt, wherever it is. When I very, very first started playing the game, I bought a booster box of Mystery Booster. That was one of the first things I ever bought when I started playing. And when I really started getting into Commander, and I happened to pull my Mana Crypt. And I've always had a deck with Mana Crypt in it. And people always would tell me, oh, hey, why don't you build like a more powerful, like a, that sort of a deck for that card, instead of just playing it in like, random artifact decks or whatever like I used to play. And so I did. A deck that cares about 0 and 1 mana artifacts, having a Mana Crypt in it seems, reasonably fitting to me. And that's that deck. It is really powerful. It is pretty powerful. I would say it's around probably a 6. A lot of combo wins. It can kill quick. I've killed quick with it before. Usually it doesn't, but if I get enough fast mana and stuff, it's not a CDH deck by any means. I don't have enough counter spells. I don't have enough cheap free interaction. Like I have Fierce Guardianship in here, which I also own. I don't have a lot of like CDH stuff in here though. So there's that deck. That's quite a nice deck of mine. And then we move on to number 4. You guys are going to be watching this for an hour. Whoever's sitting through this, I feel bad for you because I'm not that interesting. All right, I'm going to talk about Jorkadine. This is my next deck. So this is my living weapon deck. We got this nice brown box. This was one of the other ones that came with the original set, right? Yeah, look at that. And in the box, I've got the. So these are Dragon Shield Dual Mat. I believe these are called Valor. I didn't really show the Tameshi. Let me go back to Tameshi. I'll show Tameshi really quick. This is the sleeves on Tameshi, which is called Orchid, which is pretty same color as the skin, which I like a lot. Moonfolk purple. It just matches. I think it looks nice. So that's that. Again, all of these are all the black insides as well. All right, so Jorkadine, this is my living weapon deck. I don't play this one enough. I honestly think it's a really good deck. Here we go. And it uses the, these are Phyrexia All-We-One Phyrexian lands. Okay, so crazy thing about this, right? So this deck has actually changed hands a few times. I've had a few different commanders in the command zone for this deck. And I was explaining, I forget who I was talking to about this. I used to have, in fact, I've got them all in the 99. They're kind of interchangeable. Where are we looking? Just try and look. yeah, look at these lands. Good stuff. I love these lands. These lands are great. Let me have a look, see where have we got. Dude, where are the legends? There we go, there's one. And it's the other. Alright, so I've had both of these two in the command zone of this deck before. Pretty much since I started playing, I've always had like some kind of Boris equipment deck. I bought the Wyleth Solar Steel Precon from Commander Legends, and pretty much ever since I've always had some kind of equipment deck. I shook it up about a couple of years ago, and I started playing Living Weapons around the, it wasn't a couple of years ago. Whenever the 4 Mirrodin cards came out with Phyrexia Orbi one, I stepped it up to a Living Weapon deck, so it was more of that sort of a deck. And Neali was the commander for that deck for a while, because I bought that precon as well. And it wasn't the precon. So the thing with Neali's really good. I actually really like Neali. She's a great commander. Whenever I played her, I always had people asking me if I was playing the precon, and it just kind of, you know, I think I might be alone. I might not be alone in this, but that just bugged me, because, you know, the audacity. I would play a precon. You know, everyone's going to play a precon, but this is not a precon deck. A little after Nahiri came out, I played her for a little bit too. Nahiri is really powerful. Nahiri is incredibly powerful. She's big too. She has affinity for equipment, so she's cheap. In fact, if I had like a Bloodforged Battle Axe or a Togo or something out that just spits out equipment tokens, she would cost like 2 mana after like each wrath. It was insane. She would still cost like 2 mana. Really powerful commander. The only downside about Nahiri, which I didn't really think about, well, it was kind of hard to tell after I started playing it, was that she's actually kind of linear. You really, really, really need to run an overabundance of equipment in this deck, in the Nahiri deck, right? You need to run so many equipment because you want to hit it off her ability every single time. If you don't hit the equipment off her ability and cast it for free, you are doing it wrong. So that kind of just led the deck to being so like one note and just all in on just equipment, right? Only equipment. And I had to run a bunch of bad equipment because there's not even that many good equipment that I would run, right? Nahiri was good, don't get me wrong, but it felt really linear, and it kind of starved the deck of like removal and stuff. And I found a few games where I just had a bunch of stuff, and there was no way of getting through. Like I didn't have any answers to other people's things. I ended up switching it up to Jorkadeen. First of all, for this art, this is one of those like what if quote unquote like artworks where this is him as a Phyrexian, which is very cool because the deck is like the 4 Mirrodin like rebel tokens, plus I've all got the like germ tokens, the Phyrexian ones. So it's like a Mirrodin versus Phyrexian like sort of deck thing going on. Very cool. And again, like tokens, I'm a big fan of having the right tokens. I've got all my germs, all my rebels, stuff like mites, incubators, you know, thopters that are correct constructs. All of my decks have a treasure token as well. Even if the deck doesn't make treasures, sometimes people give me treasures, but I want to make sure the treasure is also going to match the deck, the actual treasure token. You know, it's a bit crazy, but yeah. So, yeah, living weapons, so germ tokens, rebel tokens, Phyrexian, Mirren, yeah. Phyrexian lands, I don't know. It just fits the aesthetic, especially with the commander. Only one problem with this. I only have 2 mountains. I only have 2 of these Phyrexian mountains. I really wanted to use these, but I only have 2. I might have to get more. The only thing that has happened there is that the mana base is a tiny bit shaky at times, and I will get to that with one of my other decks down the road, which definitely has that problem. Definitely. I have 1 proxy in this deck. That is the Stoneforge Mystic it would be, wherever it is. Stuff like Commander's Plate I just have. I got that when I first started playing as well. I traded for it. Yeah. New cards like Mandibular Kite. Good stuff. But yeah, the mana base is a little bit shaky. Clock of Omens is crazy. This deck has a lot of mana rocks. This might be, apart from Farid, probably has the most mana rocks. Farewell, I love this card. I play it in like pretty much every deck I can get away with it. Like, yeah, Farewell is one of those cards that sucks to get hit by, but, you know, I don't really use the graveyard in this deck all that much, so I can get away with running Farewell. But yeah, this deck is pretty nice. I do like playing it. I don't play it enough. I feel like it's, out of all of my 6 older decks, so not including my 7 and 8, my newer decks, it's probably the one I play the least. It's probably the one I play, like, I don't like the most. But I'm liking it as I've changed it to Jorkadine. I think I was sort of thinking of it still in terms of Nahiri being in the zone, but yeah, no, Jorkadine is nice. It's a very like just classic standardy. It can beat the ever living crap out of an opponent especially with Jaw's Trample. He has Trample, and Nahiri and Naali don't have that. So just getting him big is actually kind of good sometimes too, and he gets big by himself. We're halfway through. You guys still watching? I hope so. I don't hope so. You guys are crazy if you're still watching this. I'm gonna be here for like an hour. The orange box. That would be my my Jolene the Plunder Queen deck, and she's in Dragon Shield. This is Ember dual mats, so again black on the inside, and yeah. And this is pretty much the first deck that I spent like a lot of mana on lands, on basic lands. I spent an ungodly amount of did I say mana? I meant money. Anyway, I spent an ungodly amount of money on these. These. I just love. Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know like how I would say it right any other way. Look at those. I think I have 11 of each in this. I think, so the story goes, I had one of these foil mountains, and I just, it's a dark, like, foil sky. It looks, yeah, it just looks like that. Anyway, so I went out and, you know, spent my hard-earned cash on a few more, and now this deck looks like this, because of course it does. This deck is, it's a bit hard to say sometimes how good it is. It can pop off. It generates so much treasures and stuff that another Urza Saga deck. Alright, Urza Saga is in like all of my decks. I'm an Urza Saga believer. But yeah, I've got some splashy stuff like Jessica's Will in this deck, and I've got Dockside Extortionist I just put back in the deck. I haven't played Dockside in this deck for a while, but I decided I'd put it back in. So this has got a couple of different like sub-themes. So it's a treasure deck, of course. It's like a combat deck, kind of like a lot of big creatures and stuff. There's a couple of different, like, again, sub-themes. The first one is the, like, discard-y sort of theme. So stuff like big score that I can discard and draw 2 or whatever. Like wheels as well. The main reason is probably for my Ren and 6. This is another card where I just have it, so I want to play it. I pulled it out of a Modern Horizons pack a couple of years ago, and I always wanted to play it in one of my decks, and here we are. So I can uptick it and return a land to my hand to be used as discard fodder. I've kind of got a little bit of a discard land theme, I guess. Stuff like Currency Converter. If I discard lands, I can tap the Currency Converter to put them in my graveyard to make treasure, which of course my commander will make me an additional treasure. Jolene is pretty much a Zorn in a command zone. She just makes extra treasures. She could also become massive. If I have enough lying around, she can easily become like a 12-12 or like a 17-17, like on a dime. The other sort of like theme is the like creature copy theme. It's a bit small. It's a bit of a small theme, but I have a lot of these creatures that like enter the battlefield and make a treasure, like Wily Goblin, of course Dockside Extortionist, Yeah, Jewel Thief, there you go, another one that enters. So I have stuff like Kiki Jiki, there's Jaxus in here as well. Stuff like that, right, where you can create like hasty copies of things, and obviously you get the ETBs, and they get more stuff, and Jaxus even discards a card. Fable of the Mirror Breaker makes a guy that makes treasures, and this card's kind of crazy in this deck because it like makes a guy that makes treasures, it loots, and it also makes like a Kiki Jiki that can copy creatures, right? So Reality Scramble, I am playing this card. I can transmute a treasure into any of my artifacts in my deck. So like I don't have a lot in this deck, like my Currency Converter, my Bootlegger Stash, my Soul Ring, something like that, right? And I do have the couple of targets for the Urza Saga as well. So yeah, this deck is, I don't know, it's just a cool deck. It's just fun. It's if I'm feeling like in a bit of a flamboyant mood, I guess we'll say, I'll bust this out because it's very aggressive. Like it's a very arch enemy deck. It just pops off and people sort of have to react to it. I don't have a lot of interaction in this deck. It's a very proactive deck, we'll say. A lot of my decks are, I can play like more balanced or more reactive, whereas this is more of an aggressive deck. It's a bit different than a few of my other decks in that regard. I guess we'll go into number 6. Speaking of reactive, that would be this deck. This is my Rafine Scheming Seer deck. She is in these, they're called Lagoon dual mat sleeves. They're pretty nice. So this is, for those who have not played against this, I envy you. No, actually this deck is cool. This is like a hardcore like draw-go control deck. I have these, same thing as like Jolene, basically, the Streets of New Capenna like full arts. Yeah, that sort of thing. Got some, yeah, there you go. So yeah, those lands look great. I do have a lot of dual lands in this deck. This is my only 3-color deck as well. All of my other decks are 2 colors, except for Farid, which is 1 color. Yeah, so this is a bit of a draw-go control deck. I think there's like 40 instants in this deck. A lot of instants, a lot of stuff that you can cast to protect things, a lot of flash creatures. I just put in the instant speed graveyard recursion, like this miraculous recovery. The other part of the deck that's very important is the 2 mana value or less creatures. The commander costs 3. I basically have no ramp in this deck. I'm pretty sure there's like no ramp like really at all in the whole deck. There's no mana rocks, definitely. Not even like a soul ring. It's very, very important when I play this deck, it's very important I play a creature on 2, like a Baleful Strix or a Hunted Horror, and then Rafine on 3, and then I attack with the creature I played on 2 to get Rafine's trigger straight away. It slows down the deck a lot if I don't get to cast something on 2, or it gets removed or something like that. And then I can basically just generate value from those 2 creatures, like a Ledger Shredder or something. Dorothy Voidwalker. Again, like I got a few of these 2-drops, right? Selfless Spirit is also protection as well if I need. Heaps of interaction in this deck. Void Rend, stuff like 3 steps ahead, stuff that's versatile. I play Filter Out in this deck. I don't have a lot of stuff that this hits. It is a little bit situational. The thing with this deck though is that you can kind of run situational cards, is because the commander can discard them if you don't need them. And I find that I really struggle sometimes to pick what I discard in this deck. I did include a few more cards that actually want to be in the graveyard, like a couple of these sorts of flashbacky cards, like Chemist's Insight. Not a particularly good card, but if I need to discard something and I don't have any other options, this is actually pretty alright. Other 2-drops like Archivist of Ogma just generate value, right? Like you play them on 2, you play Rafine on 3, then you attack. I did include a few more reanimation targets as well. I think I'm up to about 8 now, which is more than I used to have. So I've got Villas. I'm not hard casting these, really. I am going to try and reanimate them. How early I reanimate them, who knows? I have a lot of protection, Teferi's protection. Grave Endeavor is an instant speed reanimation that can pump up the creature. Crazy stuff. I have stuff like Comeuppance. I also play this card, and there's another one that's similar to it. Brave the Sands, wherever I put it. I play this and Brave the Sands, and these give all of my creatures Vigilance. And Vigilance is incredibly underrated. Incredibly underrated in this format. Being able to attack and provide pressure and also being able to block is really good. And Rafine can actually get pretty big as well. She can become like a, in no time at all, she's like a, 5, 5'9" or 5'10" or whatever she will be. Good stuff, right? So yeah, I've got a couple of reanimation targets. Mostly my reanimation targets are just trying to lock the game out for me. Heaps of instant speed draw as well. If I don't remove something or I don't counter something, I've got plenty of instant speed draw to back up on. Mostly it's these X spells. They're not like the best instant speed draw ever, but I have wherever my Mind Splice apparatus is. I don't know. It was around here somewhere. There it is. Mind Splice apparatus. Whenever I draw this card, it's the best card in the whole deck by a mile. I can flash it in on someone's end step and then just go crazy, especially with the X spells. It just reduces the cost so much that it's not even funny. Yeah, so I got a lot of really powerful like board clear sort of creatures to go get, like Elish Norn and Toxrill. Archfiend of Ifnir is completely ridiculous with the commander, especially if I've got a few creatures on the field. But yeah, basically after like turn 3, like after I cast my commander, I pretty much don't have to cast anything on my turn, like ever in the rest of the game. I can just sit back and generate. Basically the idea is that I generate free value off the commander, like good card selection. I can always hit my land drops. The commander gets bigger. She provides pressure, and then I just use all. I don't feel bad because I've already done stuff, and then I can just keep my mana open to do more stuff, right? Even if I don't do more stuff, just keeping the mana open is really handy. And with this deck, I pretty much have, I have a bunch of answers, of course, but, sometimes I just don't use them because I'm not dead yet, right? This deck really loses to, if you kill the commander and if you pressure my life total. Killing the commander is not very easy. She has ward, and I have, a bajillion protection spells. Anyone who's played against this deck knows that it is very hard to kill the commander. Which is what I want, and that's how I built the deck. If you kill the commander, I'm kind of out of my value engine, basically, which is not good. Alrighty, so that was all of the decks that I previously had when I talked about my box. I happen to have these two back here, which were empty last time. They are not empty anymore. I have 2 fresh decks for everyone. Let's start off with this one. This probably... the thing with the last 2 is that it's probably the biggest stretch in terms of the color scheme and how it all looks and everything. This would be Greasefang Akiba Boss. She's actually okay. So this is the one deck that isn't in the Dragon Shield dual mats. She's just in Dragon Shield blacks. Still with the black inside though, so that's consistent at least. I love consistency. So it's close enough, right? She's in the pink Commander Slave because her artwork has a lot of pink on it. I don't know. Matches the pink deck box at least. Yeah, that's at least pretty cool. My Greasefang deck, I've had this commander a few times. I think this is my 3rd time I've ever tried to build it, and I tried something a bit different for this deck. Yeah, I've got the usual you can sack stuff and then put it back in a graveyard to reanimate it next turn. This is like a stompy deck. I have just a lot of good value-y, just stuff that just generates me a lot of value, but also is big, Regisaur, a little bit of removal. I have enough vehicles, so it's still a vehicle deck, right? I have enough vehicles to get me going, enough board wipes to get me going, but stuff like this sort of stuff, right? Card control as well. Just big creatures, right? Stuff that, and Faithbound Judge, that came up in a game and it was really hilarious. Just stompy stuff, right? I think the best is probably the Regisaur. It's because it's a discard outlet. So the best thing to do is to discard a vehicle, and then you can reanimate it, and then it will get bounced to your hand again, of course, because of the Greasefang, and then you could just discard it again. So you got free discard for it from the Regisaur, and it's just a 7/6 for 3. That's balanced. Stuff like Bonter, I can sacrifice things. Blood Vial Purveyor and Doom Whisperer are just big. I wanted to play Kaya, so I'm playing Kaya. This is one of my favorite Planeswalkers. I don't know, just stuff, just generic like removal and card draw and just bodies, and it just is a really grindy deck, and it just tries to get like a lot of value. I got plenty of board wipes as well. Stuff like Eradicator Valkyrie, like heaps of board wipes. This guy, Tenacious Underdog, is a really just he just like comes back over and over, and he just generates cards. More board wipes, more removal. Lands. I have these again, the Kamigawa Full Arts. Although, there's only one problem. I have like 5 of these. I have the white ones in Tameshi. This one actually was in Tameshi, but I was using the other artwork if I can find them somewhere. There we go, this artwork. This was the deck I mentioned earlier that had the shaky mana base, and it really does. This deck kind of has the worst mana base ever. But because I want to use these lands, right? Look at them. Look how nice they are. This is like the best thing ever. So, this isn't all of them. I'm pretty sure I've got one more of these swamps, but I'm pretty sure that's my only planes. They got like no basics. It's a 2-color deck, remember? I'm basically stretching so hard for playable like dual lands and utility lands and stuff. It's rough. It is really rough. I've had games where the mana just does not line up like at all. It's, but for the aesthetic, it's worth it. And maybe I'll get some more of these down the line, and I'll play some more basics, So yeah, that's my Greasefang deck. It's new, right? Like it's still like a work in progress, and it's still got some kinks in it. It's obviously the mana base is the big one. It's got some sketchy cards in it, like Kaya, that I always don't play, but it's cool, and it's just a kind of grindy, stompy, just stuff I want to play deck, and it's Greasefang, right? So I mean, I don't know what you guys expect when you play against Greasefang, but yeah, cool. Let's choose. So that's number 7. So all right, last deck. If you guys are still watching, you are Saints. Once again, I'm not that interesting, so thanks for sticking around. We are on to my last deck, my newest deck, which kind of came out of nowhere, really. I just sort of thought of it in passing one day, and I thought that would make a really cool idea. This is the last box, the yellow box. This deck is my Tevesh Zart deck. Currently, his partner is Dargo the Shipwrecker. Tevesh Zart has actually had a few decks of mine at the helm for a while. I've had Tevesh and Krark, actually, I used to have as like a Spellsinger, like Stormy sort of deck. And then whenever Krark was misbehaving, I would just sack him to Tevesh. So that was fun. I had for a little bit Tevesh and Malcolm, which I think there's a gameplay video of me playing that deck. That got turned into my other blue deck, which is over there somewhere as one of my Outer Circle decks. I was thinking about like what I really like to play and what sort of things I like doing and how I like to play the game. And I sort of came to the conclusion that I actually really would like to play Planeswalkers, like having a lot of decisions to make and stuff like that. So that's what this is. This is a Planeswalker deck. I have a bunch of proxies, so I pretty much have proxied everything up for this deck because I'm just trying it. I did just win my first game with it today, only about an hour ago. Both of the commanders are completely insane. Dargo is not balanced at all. I don't know who the hell designed that. He's not an uncommon. He's ridiculous. He's so I can't believe they printed this card. I've never played with him before, but he's just completely insane. Basically, the way he works is you pay 1 red mana, and then for every 2 of his cost, including commander tax, it's 1 sacrifice or 1 thing you have sacrificed that entire turn. If I cast Dargo and sacrifice 5 things, that counts to him if you sacrifice him and cast him again, which, routinely happens. And I've gotten him up to 15 commander attacks before, and I still am not in danger of not being able to cast him. One thing I found with looking at Planeswalkers to play because I obviously was thinking about playing a Planeswalker deck, but I didn't really know. The only thing I thought of was, I want to play a Planeswalker deck, but I want Tevesh in the command zone, right? Because I like Tevesh. What does Tevesh do? He upticks to make thralls, he can sacrifice my commander, or like anything to draw cards. That's pretty good. His -10 actually did come up in the last game, and I stole like an Erebos and a Sakama and a Melek, and it was really fun. Not fun for the opponents, as far as I could tell. Sorry guys. I hope you're not watching. Yeah, but a lot of these Planeswalkers in these colors actually generate tokens. Like Jaya upticks to make monk tokens. Zerial makes devil tokens. Chandra makes the hasty elementals with the, they get sacrificed or whatever. I got like Tybalt. You can play Tybalt, of course. He's just good. Lolth makes spider tokens. Obnixilis, I'll get to him in a second. Chandra makes 2 tokens for 3 mana every turn. Pretty good. Vraska is a proliferate, so she can make all my guys whatever. She's removal as well. Yeah. Chandra Legacy of Fire. This card came up a couple times, and it's really good. Yeah. But yeah, like, I've also got like a bit of an artifact sort of thing in this deck going on. So artifact lands, only Colt Anvil, generating artifacts, right? Dargo can sacrifice creatures that the Planeswalkers generate. That's pretty easy usually. But he could also sacrifice like an artifact or whatever. If I have enough artifacts, I can juice Dargo up with like a cranial plating or a cranial ram that's in here somewhere. I have Witch's Clinic. This is another deck that plays Urza's Saga. I have Expedition Map, and I have a couple of ways to get to Urza's Saga, and I have like lands that I want as well. And 1-drops that I want, like Skull Clamp, wherever Skull Clamp is. Skull Clamp is absolutely, completely bananas in this deck because all of my guys generate like 1 toughness tokens. Not that this deck needs any more card draw. This deck has probably the most card draw out of all of my decks, except for maybe Torsten. I think Torsten probably has more card draw in it because the commander is completely stupid. But Tevesh draws a lot of cards. I can play Dargo, sack like 5 things. Sack Dargo to Tevesh, draw 3, and then that counts as another sacrifice for Dargo's next cast. So it basically doesn't even cost commander tax, and I just need to pay like 1 more. It's completely insane. Obnixilis, I can casualty the Dargo, and then immediately -7 the Ob, because he has 7 power. And then I can, basically the Ob becomes, if you have Dargo on the field, sack Dargo, you can draw 7 and lose 7. Just outstanding. It's completely insane. He also generates tokens, by the way. Just completely ridiculous. This deck has been a lot of fun. I've actually enjoyed playing this a lot. Snow-covered lands. So that's the lands for this deck. Not all the same, unfortunately. I'm thinking about getting all the Modern Horizons ones. I have exactly 1 snow card in the whole deck. Blood on the Snow. I probably could play what's that one that has Tevesh Zart's flavor text in it? Dead of Silence or something, or Dead of Winter, I think it's called. It just gives all it's like a Toxic Deluge for like non-snow creatures, where X is the number of snow permanents you control. Something like that. I have enough snowlands to go around for this sort of thing. Blood on the Snow is a board wipe, a creature sweeper for 6, but then you can like reanimate a planeswalker or a creature from my graveyard. Where X is the mana value of the thing, but it's also the number of snow mana that I spent to cast it. So I can reanimate like Tevesh if I spend 5 snow mana to cast the 6-drop. It usually happens like that. A lot of token generation. I like having my correct tokens, so thralls, treasure tokens, stuff like demon tokens. The devil tokens. This is the best devil token artwork. I don't think anyone can persuade me otherwise. Yeah. Duretti. So there's a few of these Rakdos planeswalkers that also care about artifacts, like Duretti as well. Both the Durettis do. I get to play stuff like Junk Diver to return my artifacts and just get more value. Yeah, it's good. I play a lot of board wipes in this deck. I don't think anyone's really noticed. Lot of board wipes. I like Chandra's Ignition's crazy. I can target my Dargo and deal 7 to everything else and every opponent. Crazy stuff. There's the Cranial Ram. That can juice up. I play all these artifact token spitters that you can sack to Dargo and you get like extra of them. It's just cool. This deck's been like a blast. I actually didn't expect to enjoy this deck as much as I do. It's really, I don't know. I've only played a couple of games with it, but it seems to be pretty powerful at this stage. It is a lot of fun though. These are in Dragon Shield. This is called Truth, and they're like a gold color, which yeah, it fits. I had my V-Hand deck in this box and these sleeves when I had V-Hand for like 2 seconds. That deck was not okay. Yeah, I don't think the aesthetic is as nice as the others, honestly. It still works though. I don't really know. As for like power levels, I generally think of power levels like differently to most people. I say that like 10 is CDH, like 9 is like tier 2 CDH sort of. Like you could probably play a 9 in CDH sometimes if you're really keen. A 1 or a 2 to me is a deck that is less powerful than a precon. So anything like Ladies Looking Left or Chair Tribal, that sort of thing, that's like your 1s and 2s, right? My 3s to 6s are like precon tier casual. So anything from a 3 to a 6, you could play against anything else that's a 3 to a 6, like reasonably comfortably, right? So that's your sort of precon level, right? So some of the old precons might be 3s, some of the new precons might be like, 4s and 5s. Someone who's bought a precon and upgraded it a little bit could be talking about a 5 or maybe a 6. And then your 7s, 8s, and 9s are your like high tier commander. So stuff like Korvold and Urza, like Najila, really, really powerful decks. Like you wouldn't play them against a pod full of precons, right? That's like a 7 through to a 9, right? Like you might be able to play a 7 against a pod of 6s, right? Like really powerful, like just standardy decks, right? As for power levels of my decks, if we're going by that metric, my Farid's probably a 4. My Torsten's probably a 6. Maybe it's a 6.5, something like that. Tameshi's also probably a 6, 6.5. Again, these are designed to play against like normal decks, we'll say. But I probably could play them against like more powerful decks as well, because they have enough removal, enough interaction, enough reach to also play against decks. And they're my only 2 decks that can win with combos as well. So it's possible to play them against like 7s and stuff. You could probably say that those are 7s by my metric. Jorkadine is probably a 5, I would say. I think it's probably more powerful than Farid by a little bit. It can hit crazy hard, but I mean, you could say they're about the same too. It's hard to say. Jolene is probably smack dab on a 5. That's pretty much your average. Like it can have its pop-off moments, but it can also flounder a little bit. Rafine is probably a 6. That has a lot of interaction, and it really is quite brutal to play against if you don't know how to play against it. It just generates so much free value, and it has every answer like all the time, and it just never dies, and it just has so much powerful like reanimation in it. It's just, yeah, so that's pretty much textbook 6. I don't know about Greasefang. The mana base being so shaky kind of leads me towards 4, honestly. It can grind. It has a lot of life gain, a lot of grindy cards. Same with these guys. I don't know. I'm going to say 5 for now. It's been pretty good so far. But yeah, I don't really have a big enough sample size to accurately tell you guys what the power level of that is. Alrighty, so I guess that's going to be everything. I will just show off the embroidery on the box first. Look at that. It's nice embossed like gold. And the actual box has this nice texture on it. I take this to my LGS. It's got all my decks in it. It's got my my entire life in it, we'll say. It's very nice. And I just put that next to me while I play. Cool, awesome. Whoever's still watching, you are crazy. Thank you though. I am not a content creator, but I always thought I would be someday. I'm not a content creator. This doesn't count, all right? It's just me talking about my random crap. Awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody who watched, and I will see you around on the Discord.